with us this morning. I want to remind you, you can join us online at WQRLradio.com, WQRLradio.com. Thanks very much for joining us this morning. I'm Jim Muir. I'm going to be your host for the next 2 hours, and the same promise we make each and every Saturday morning. We're going to do our very best to get you caught up on all things sports related. Certainly a big night last night as high school football kicked off around Southern Illinois, and we were right in the middle of things. Benton at Carterville last night. The Rangers lose on the road last night. 40-6 is the final in that one. We'll talk with Benton coach Jeremy Clodfelder a little bit later on, and we'll run through a lot of different scores. Interesting note last night, only one team in the Ohio division won a game last night, and that was Murfreesboro. Everybody else in the Ohio got beat last night. Benton, Massac County, Herrin, Harrisburg, and West Frankfort all went down to defeat last night. Flip that over in the Mississippi side. Everybody but DuQuoin won last night. So, an interesting little play there with interesting games in the Black Diamond Conference. We'll run through those later on. A big game today. I imagine there'll be a lot of coaches from the Diamond heading over to Carmi-White County today as Bismarck Henning is coming into Carmi-White County, which should be a dandy matchup. Bismarck Henning, just an annual powerhouse in 2A football. They'll roll into Carmi-White County. Of course, that game is a makeup game from the Alvarado game that was lost on the schedule when Alvarado left the Diamond and co-op with DuQuoin. And then in the South 7 last night, the South 7 schools, Althoff wins, Cahokia loses, Carbondale loses, Marion loses, Mount Vernon loses, and Centralia wins. So we'll kind of run through those games also and get you set for next week action also. In week 2, we'll kind of get you set for the games that are on tap next week. Did we learn some things last night? I believe so. I believe we probably got an idea of some of the teams that are going to be teams to be reckoned with this year, and I think some other ones are kind of licking their wounds this morning and looking to regroup in week 2. So we got a busy schedule lined up for you this morning. We're going to talk to several different coaches. Jeremy Clodfelder will join us a little bit later, just in a few minutes, and talk about that Benton loss last night. Also, Brandon Hampton will join us. His El Dorado Eagles pick up a big win last night over Cesar-Valere, Waltonville, Woodlawn. That was a game at El Dorado. Dan Mings will join us this morning. Johnston City wins last night 29-0 over Vienna Goreville. Justin Townsend, Fairfield coach. His Mules are picked right at the top of the heap in the Black Diamond. They're going to be in the hunt for that Black Diamond Conference Championship. Also, Gary Carter, a solid win last night for Murfreesboro as they defeat Carbondale in that Jackson County rivalry game last night, 35-7. Chester coach Brian Lee will join us. He'll talk about the victory last night, 42-0 over Hamilton County. And also joining us late in the program will be Scott Wurz. He's a reporter with the Belleville News-Democrat. We've also got an interview that we're going to plug in there in between a couple of these football coaches. A good friend of mine, a guy that I count as a longtime friend, Phil Gilbert. You might know Phil as a longtime chief federal judge here at the U.S. District Courthouse in Benton. He also was a member of a great high school basketball team back in 1966-67, a team that finished second in the state, a team that broke the hearts of many Benton Ranger fans as Carbondale knocked off Benton that year in the Super Sectional. That team will be inducted into the Carbondale Hall of Fame tonight, along with some other very well-known coaches and players, former players from Carbondale. So invited Phil onto the program this morning, and he'll join us in our first hour this morning. We'll chat with him about the big night coming up tonight at the Carbondale Civic Center. So it should be an interesting interview with Phil Gilbert. We always enjoy talking with him, so we look forward to that this morning also. So as you can see, we have got a very busy 2-hour program for you. It's a rainy old morning out there, so just kick back and stay with us this morning. We're going to catch you up on high school football. Before we get a break in, let's run through those scores in case you have not heard the scores yet this morning. We'll run through the scores from around Southern Illinois. First, the Ohio Division, Carterville 40, Benton 6. Freeburg defeats Massac County 42-14. It was also Waterloo coming back from a 21-point deficit to defeat Herrin 28-27. Harrisburg loses to Mount Carmel 46-12. West Frankfort puts up a valiant effort but loses to AJ on the road 37-32. And as we mentioned, Murfreesboro defeats Carbondale 35-7. On the Mississippi side, as we mentioned, West Frankfort loses to AJ. Carterville over Benton. DuQuoin loses to Highland last night, 56-0. Nashville with a nice win last night over Carlisle, 22-20. Pinckneyville a solid win over Redbud, 41-6. And Sparta, Benton's opponent next week, shuts out DuPo, 23-0. In the Black Diamond Conference, Carmi-White County will meet Bismarck-Henning. We mentioned this afternoon in that matchup. Chester over Hamilton County, 42-0. Fairfield 55, CZR 15. Sasserville, Waltonville, Woodlawn loses to El Dorado 44-22, and Johnston City shuts out Vienna Goreville 29-0. In the South 7, Belleville Altoff 34, Collinsville 14. O'Fallon knocks off Cahokia 19-0. Murphy, as we said, over Carbondale 35-7. Marion loses on the road to Champaign Central 26-14. Taylorville defeats Mount Vernon 40-20, and Centralia picks up an opening season win 34-14 over Salem. And that's a rundown of Week 1 action in high school football. Let's get a quick break in. We'll come back and chat with Benton coach Jeremy Clodfelder back in a moment.
At Weeks in Benton, we can help you with your automotive purchasing needs with 7 brands of new vehicles: Chevy, Chrysler, Dodge, Ram, Jeep, Polaris, and Victory. Stop by and test drive one of these excellent new products or our large inventory of pre-owned. Our friendly sales staff has over 100 years of combined experience, which helps make your buying experience easy and comfortable. That's Weeks in Benton, north of town, but south on the price.
Whether you grew up in the country or in the middle of the big city, everyone can enjoy a flavor favorite at Subway restaurants with the Chicken Salad Sandwich, a delicious combination of juicy chicken, chopped celery, and creamy mayonnaise, all served on your choice of freshly baked bread. We like ours with lettuce and tomatoes, but you can top yours with any veggies you want. Add chips and a drink, and you've got a great meal. So stop by today for our flavor favorite sub, the delicious Chicken Salad Sandwich. Subway, eat fresh. Limited time only at participating locations.
Break's over. Now back to Saturday morning talking sports on Q106.
Welcome back. Saturday morning talking sports here on WQRL. A game that you heard last night right here on WQRL. Justin Wyatt and Travis Severin alongside with me at Carterville last night as the Carterville Lions, they defeat Benton by a score of 40-6, and the Rangers got out of the gate slow, some miscues early on, then played from behind the rest of the night, and never could regroup. Carterville put it away in the third quarter with 19 unanswered points, and they win that game 40-6. We welcome to the program now Benton coach Jeremy Clodfelder. Coach, good morning to you.
Good morning, Jim.
And I know you've had we chatted last night immediately after the game. You've kind of had a chance to digest things. You know, Jeremy, I was thinking driving in this morning, and I say this with all due respect to Carterville, a 40-6 score. When people look at that score, they're going to think lopsided game, total domination. That game, it was an odd game in the fact that even into the mid part of the third quarter, you still felt like the Rangers were in the game, clearly in the game at halftime. And your thoughts on that? It was an odd game. The 40-6 score may be a little deceiving.
Well, I think that's twofold, Jim, and I think you're correct, and I hope you're right. We have to fix, if there's a possible way, we have to fix one of the things I'm going to talk about here. But you know, it's 21-6 at the half, and we had the botched deal right before the half, and I'm going to put that on us as a staff and players collectively. That wasn't handled very well, and I'll look in the mirror and point. And, you know, before we ever want to point the finger, I want to point the thumb and say, were we absolutely prepared for that play? And I don't think we were. I just don't think that we did a good enough job of getting them ready for that situation. Now we've got to have a little bit more football smarts and savvy about ourselves as players to understand the circumstances. But at the end of the day, we didn't get that in. There was an opportunity right there to make it a one-score game at the half. As you alluded to, we buried ourselves with 21-0 with a couple of 3-and-outs. Bad punts gave our defense terrible field position, particularly on the first two scores that Carterville got. And then we had the situation where it was still 21-6, and we throw a touchdown to Torres, and you know that thing gets called back on. I don't know. I watched it last night. I don't know if it was I'm going to leave it alone. It was a holding call that hard to find holding, but it was after the altercation, if you will, with the officials and our sideline and so on and so forth. So there's again a chance to make it a one-score game, and didn't work out. But we come out of the locker room at halftime, and they go down and score, make it 27-6, and I thought we did a nice job of coming back down the field. And then we don't get in on 4th and goal after the pass interference down there. And then I think what happened was, when it's 27-6 now, you don't get in on 2 4th downs to make it maybe a one-score tie ball game, possibly, or you don't, or you get a penalty, a touchdown call back on a penalty. You got 2 choices now. You can keep playing the game. You can fight through the game at 27-6 and go out there and keep swinging away, and maybe you lose 27-14. Maybe you lose 27-20. Or you can kind of say, you can let that pop your bubble, and you can kind of roll it over. And when you roll it over against a team like that, and that's the part we got to fix, when you roll it over and you're not mentally and physically tough to play through some adversity and some tough times against a team like that, it's going to be 40-6, and people are going to get up in the morning and look at the paper and go, "Oh boy, that was a yawner. That wasn't much of a ball game." But I would agree with you. I guess that was a long story said. I would agree with you the fact that it was an odd game. It certainly didn't have to be 40-6, and for whatever reason, we allowed it to be 40-6. But I thought it could have been a much more closer and competitive score than it appears.
With the 2 punts to begin the game, both of them that put Carterville with the football inside the 20. They came away with 1 score out of that. Benton goes out on downs twice inside the 1 yard line. A touchdown call back. I mean, I agree. I think that it was a game that there was a lot of opportunities there, and maybe if Benton gets in at the half, it's a different ball game. They're 1 score down. But that's hindsight, and that's looking at it through maybe rose-colored glasses. But clearly, I thought that Benton did some things good last night to build on. Big play capability, Cruz Hayes, Clay Kelly, Mark Torres, Cole Richardson. I thought there was some bright spots in there that certainly is something to build on in week 2.
Well, there were, and I thought one of the brightest spots were, and I'll go back and say this: my 2 concerns going into the game, for the most part, were really our offensive line. It's still got some youth involved in it, and after watching the tape, while I won't say it was great, at times it was very productive. I thought pass pro was very low. I thought we created some lanes sometimes. Now, they didn't play up to the expectation level that we expect them to, but it wasn't what I feared going in. And secondly, while he missed a couple of throws and progressions early on, we had Mark Torres wide open early in the game on a stutter fade out of some play action, and we threw it down the middle of the field instead of the wide open guy. And then we had Cruz wide open in the middle of the field on the very next play, and we just overthrew him for a touchdown. We know him within about 4 or 5 steps of him. But aside from that, I really thought Caleb Brock came out and played well. He validated I thought he really validated the decision we made to go there. I thought he did a nice job of managing the game. I thought he didn't panic at times. I thought he did a really nice job at times of escaping pressure and finding somebody open. It's a little bit different than from the last couple of years when we would have a spike and he would escape some pressure. You knew it was going to happen. He was going to pull it down and run and go make something happen. I was pleased to see the way that Caleb handled the game and the situation. One of my more disappointing moments of the night was it goes back to kind of the beginning of this deal where the culture wasn't what we wanted it to be when we all rode through that together. Jim, we're going to have a conversation about that this morning. Last night, emotions were running high and people were, upset and down. And I think from a coach's standpoint, but when you get on a bus and you lose 40-6 on the road to begin your football season, week 1, we had way too many happy characters on the bus last night after losing 40-6, and that's something we got to address. There's just some things that we have to shore up, and from a football standpoint, but also from a different side, from a mental standpoint.
I thought, I mentioned those kids I thought had the big play capability. I want to go back and echo your thoughts. I thought it was interesting last night to kind of watch Caleb Brock. He kind of grew up in front of our eyes last night. I think that game experience, that's a kid I to my recollection, had no varsity experience whatsoever going in last night. And so I thought, as you said, he turned in an admirable job, and I thought certainly he's going to get better, but he came along as that game progressed. You could see him get better and more confident as we moved along.
Yeah, I thought, like I said, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know how he would handle that moment. But I thought, aside from missing some throws, and that's going to happen, and he was jazzed up and juiced up and ready to play, and kind of overshot a ball and missed a read on a progression that at the time were big. They were huge at the time. But I still thought, like you said, he grew up throughout the course of the game, and I think he's going to get better. I think he's a guy that's had and really, here's a guy that's really only had the job for about 2.5, 3 weeks. That it's really only been his, and he came along and kind of took it over. So I think that he's got the ability, if he stays humble and if he stays in and doesn't let negativity distract him or pull him down, he's got a chance. He's got a chance to really develop and grow within the things we're doing.
And Coach, certainly when you look at that game last night, one game is not a make or break on a 9-game season, but one game certainly puts some urgency on weeks 2 and 3 before conference play starts. So that kind of ratchets up the pressure and the certainly ought to be the motivation for to come out in week 2 and 3 and make something happen, because you fall behind 2 or 3 games, and then making up then is a tough way to go. Talk about that.
Well, there's no question about that. I think you can go back and look at the percentages of teams throughout the history of high school football that make the playoffs, and I know it happens, but when you're 0-1 and you look at the postseason, and we're a long way from even really discussing that, but in terms of getting there, and that always has to be one of your goals throughout the course of the year. At 0-1, it's not the end of the world. At 0-2, the percentages really take a step back in terms of you achieving your goals. Just throughout the course of time, when you look at people who have gone 0-2, getting to that Week 10 game gets much more difficult. So there'll be a sense of urgency, but like I said previously, we have to clean up some things from a discipline standpoint, not just necessarily on the field. Some things I alluded to last night about packing your bags and doing things that you got to do. We've got to clean that up, and like I said, we want our kids to have an edge. There's no question about that. Our 10, 11, 12 teams, they had an edge about them. They had a swagger about them. But you can't just necessarily have that edge if you're not going to back that edge up and be completely disciplined mentally and be physically tough and mentally tough and do all the things that you have to do when you play this game. This is a hard game. It's a physical game. So we got to decide. We got to decide really quick whether or not we're going to grow up and be contenders, or if we're happy just to kind of walk through the hallways and kind of be a pretender.
Very good, Coach. I know you got your shirt sleeves rolled up, ready to get to work for next week, so we'll let you get to that. We'll look forward to chatting with you this week as you prepare for Sparta. Good luck, and we'll look forward to seeing you at Tabor Field next Friday night.
Okay, Jim, thanks.
That is Benton coach Jeremy Clodfeller. Let's get a quick break in, and we'll come back and continue on. You're listening to Saturday Morning Talking Sports. Back in a moment.
This is Grady Gaskins, mortgage and commercial lender for People's National Bank in West Frankfort. People's National Bank has always concentrated on supporting the local community by providing the very best products in the market. These products include long-term fixed-rate financing for homes and great commercial rates and terms for your businesses. We strive to make you, our customer, comfortable and confident that you are getting a great service along with a great product that fits your needs. Stop by today and let me show you what banking with a family-owned bank is all about. People's National Bank, proudly supporting Southern Illinois since 1909. Member FDIC. NMLS Equal Housing Lender.
Everyone has a lunch special, but what's special about it? At Mr. D's, you get great food at the best price, like the burger combo. A hearty, tasty burger, fries, and a drink for only $4.39. That's right, less than $5 for a full meal. Now that's special. Mr. D's has all of your favorites, from chicken strips with gravy to chili dogs to savory barbecue, even a tilapia fish sandwich. Wash it down with your favorite drink like a blueberry Mountain Dew or a milkshake or ice cold Pepsi. Try an ice cream cone for dessert. Mr. D's Drive-In on North Main, Benton.
Hey, this is Big Dave at All Stars and Stitches, located in Benton, Illinois. We provide screen printing, embroidery, banners, signs, plaques, trophies, and awards.
Hey, this is Coach Aaron. If you need screen printing, embroidery, plaques, or trophies, give the big man, Big Dave, a call at All Stars and Stitches in Benton, Illinois, 435-555-555.
Again, All Stars and Stitches. Our hours are Monday through Friday from 10 to 6 and Saturdays from 10 to 3. By the way, what was that phone number again?
435-555-555.
You need a law firm who is willing to go and fight for you, whether you're in a divorce, accused of a crime, or if you've been injured in an accident.
I'm Brian Drew. My brother Jason and I's law firm was built on and continues to be run on fighting for our clients. We'll fight for you all the way through trial, be it in front of a judge or jury, whatever it takes. From Cairo to Effingham, from river to river, we're here for you. No case is too big, no case is too small. If it matters to you, then it matters to us.
Because when it really matters, hire Drew and Drew. Call 439-9406 or online at drewlawgroup.com.
Break's over. Now back to Saturday morning talking sports on Q106.
Welcome back. Saturday morning talking sports here on WQRL. Again, glad to have you alongside with us this morning. And we'll quickly run through those scores again for you in case you did not hear those. Carterville 40, Benton 6. Freeburg defeats Massac County 42-14 last night. Also, it was Heron had a 21-0 halftime lead and lose to Waterloo 28-27. That's a tough pill to swallow after you had a 21-point lead. Also, it was Mount Carmel defeating Harrisburg 46-12. AJ hangs on and beats West Frankfort 37-32, and Murfreesboro with a solid win over Carbondale 35-7. So we'll run through some more of those. The Mississippi side, also the Black Diamond Conference, and the South 7. Ashley, have we made connection with Phil Gilbert? I think we have. We have not made connection. Okay, we'll tell you, but we're going to get that interview in just a moment. Carbondale High School is having they're going to induct 10 players into their Hall of Fame, and some great players on that list. And we're looking forward to connecting with Judge Gilbert just a little bit later to talk about that event. One of the people going to be inducted tonight will be longtime coach down there, John Cherry, who's just a great individual. So we'll look forward to talking with Judge Gilbert about that just a little bit later. Let's get another quick break in, then we'll come back. You're tuned to Saturday Morning Talking Sports. Back in just a moment.
Are you suffering from checkout counter shock? Does your register receipt reflect higher and higher prices? Are you tired of juggling a budget that buys less for more? Your Pekin Insurance Agency, SCD Ray & Sons Insurance Agency in Benton, has good news for you. If you insure both your home and auto with Pekin Insurance, you'll receive a discount on both, up to 30% on your homeowner's premiums and up to 15% on your auto premiums. It makes good sense to call SCD Ray & Sons, 439-7557, about an auto home discount, making a difference for you by going beyond the expected.
When it's time to make sure your teeth are in healthy condition, call Dr. Simpson, DDS in Benton to schedule your appointment or your child's appointment. Regular cleaning and checkups are part of maintaining your teeth for a comfortable, healthy smile. And if you're looking to brighten your smile, Dr. Simpson offers whitening too. When your teeth need cleaning, filling, crowns, bridge work, whitening, and more, call Dr. Simpson to make an appointment. 439-4364. That's 439-4364 for Dr. Simpson, DDS in Benton.
Break's over. Now back to Saturday morning talking sports on Q106.
Welcome back. Saturday morning talking sports here on WQRL. Again, glad to have you alongside with us this morning. We're going to shift gears away from high school football a little bit. The Carbondale Community High School will add a large group of very distinguished players, teams, coaches to the Athletic Hall of Fame this weekend, a big event tonight at the Carbondale Civic Center. And one of those people that was a member of that 1966-67 basketball team that broke a lot of hearts in Benton, Illinois, when they beat Benton in that super sectional game that year. Benton was undefeated at the time. Was Phil Gilbert, longtime judge here in Benton, U.S. District Judge here at the courthouse in Benton. And we're happy to welcome Phil Gilbert to the program. Phil, how are you this morning?
Fine, Jim. How are you doing today?
We're doing well. We really appreciate you spending some time with us. And Phil, I'm looking down this list, and boy, what an impressive group of people that's going into the Hall of Fame tonight in Carbondale.
Yes, it is. We have 13 individuals that are being inducted, as well as 6 coaches, which includes not only John Cherry, but Vern Pollock, Doug Woolard, Greg Klein, who was our great soccer coach, and Reed Martin, who was athletic director and coach, and then Gary Holda, who was our great track coach. And then also 3 teams, besides the 66-67 basketball team that I played on. We have the 1960 undefeated football team, where Ron Axe was the quarterback, who later went and played in the NFL. And, of course, people that are as old as I am remember some of the great games between Ron Axe and Bobby Brown from West Frankfort back in those days. And then our 1978 volleyball team that finished 3rd in state. So it's a great group.
And just looking down the list, and certainly my memory, there's a lot of those players that really come to my mind that even in a lot of folks around Southern Illinois, Johnny Fain, Gordon Welch, of course, Bob Pankey. And, I was looking at this, Phil, and Bob Pankey's being inducted as a football player, but wasn't he also a member of a pretty good basketball team down there? Maybe played with Les Taylor? Am I correct in
that?
Well,
yes, he did. The year after the 66-67 team, the team the next year got to the quarterfinals, and Bob Pankey was on that team along with Doug Woolard and Les Taylor. And then, of course, Bob was quarterback of the 1968 undefeated Carbondale football team. So Bob Pankey's a great athlete. I saw him last night. He looks great. And we're excited to have him back for this induction.
And one coach that's going to be inducted, a couple of them, really, Vern Pollock is an awfully good man. I think an awful lot of Vern. John Cherry is a guy that I have the utmost respect for. He not only is he a great basketball coach and a great basketball mind, but he is probably a better person off the floor, and that's saying a lot, Phil. He's a better person off the court than he is on the court, and he's great on the court. What's John Cherry meant to you through the years?
Well, I've said this publicly many times, that other than my father and uncle, John Cherry probably had as much influence on me as any male figure in my life. The impact that he has had on the boys in all the sports that he coached is just immeasurable. He taught us that athletics is not just about winning and losing, but about instilling life qualities of drive, determination, dedication, and discipline. And he instilled in us that there's nothing we can't do through teamwork and patience and perseverance. And I remember our junior year in high school, before the basketball season started, he took us all into his classroom and wrote on the blackboard, CCH Terriers State Champs 2-year project. And here we made it to the final game our senior year. But he built not only successful teams, but he built and molded young boys into men. He had that much of an impact on not only on me, but on about everybody he coached.
And I know you and I have had a chance to chat and kid a little bit about that season, but that was a year that Coach Cherry will tell you, and he's quick to tell you. I know I was talking to him one time, and I used the word upset when I said Carbondale upset Benton in that super, and he let me know very quickly he didn't think it was an upset, and he felt like that it was a game that Carbondale did not upset Benton, that Carbondale just beat Benton that night. But I'm sure it's looking back through the years now, it's a great joy for you to be a part, to think about being a big part of that team back nearly 50 years ago.
Oh, it is. And for those who remember, just 2 weeks before that super sectional game, we lost to Benton at Benton in an overtime game. And it was, I guess people thought it was an upset, but we knew when we lost in overtime, we went into that locker room and said that if we meet them in the super sectional, we are going to beat them. So in our minds, it was not an upset. And I also would like to add, Jim, that as well as John Cherry being just an outstanding man and the impact he had on boys, Rich Herron, in my opinion, had the same impact on all the boys that he coached, too. I think he was an outstanding coach, and he is an outstanding individual.
And I believe that overtime loss to Carbondale, I believe that's the game where Danny Johnson hit a couple free throws real late with only a couple seconds left, and then Carbondale got a last shot that rimmed out, I believe.
And guess who shot the last shot?
I think that would have been Judge Gilbert, wouldn't it?
It was me, and it hit the front of the rim, hit to the back of the rim, and rolled around, and it just seemed like time stopped, and then it just fell off. And but that was me that almost made the last second shot to beat them. And had we won that game, I'm not sure we would have beat them in the Super Sectional.
You know, and just a little tit for tat here, I look on the list and I see Joe Hamilton, and the first thing that came to my mind when I saw Joe Hamilton's name on there was Joe Hamilton was part of a team that went undefeated at Carbondale with Glenn Martin, I believe, and Benton knocked them off undefeated in the sectional in the mid-'80s in a sectional championship game, maybe a first-round sectional game, and Benton went on and won that sectional. But I remember that. So I guess that was some great rivalry back in that era, though, and when both schools were in that South 7 conference. So that was some great basketball.
It was great basketball, and it had a little. The Benton-Carbondale rivalry had a little more special meaning to me since my mother grew up in Benton, right across from the high school.
So there was a little angle there also. So it should be a great night tonight. They've got a big crowd expected, and Phil, just enjoy yourself there tonight. I think you guys were introduced at the football game last night.
Yes, we were. Yes, we were.
So congratulations on that, and kudos to the good folks at Carbondale for recognizing some of those great individuals that came through there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Jim.
That is Phil Gilbert, and again, some of those players being introduced. That's a little trek down memory lane there. Johnny Fain, a lot of folks remember Johnny Fain, great high school basketball player. Joe Hamilton was part of that undefeated, I'm going to say 83, 84 maybe, team that Carbondale had. They beat Benton twice in the regular season, came into the sectional at Benton, and the Rangers got him up there. Benton had Bruce Baker, Kai Nurnberger, Darren Carlisle was on that team. There was some great players for both teams there, but Benton gets him in the sectional. I believe it was first game of the sectional. I'm calling off the top of my head there, and that's always dangerous. But I believe Benton gets him in the sectional first game, and then Benton beats maybe Taylorville with the big 7-footer. I believe that's what it was in the sectional championship, and then go on to the Super the next week, Tuesday night. So Seth Smith being inducted, a lot of folks remember him, both football and basketball. Of course, we mentioned Vern Pollock, great guy, excellent football coach, and John Cherry, Doug Woolard, Reed Martin. So some great folks being inducted, and that 66-67 Carbondale team. So congratulations to the good folks at Carbondale on their Hall of Fame. Then they'll have a good time with that tonight at the Carbondale Civic Center. Let's get a break in. We're going to continue on with El Dorado coach Brandon Hampton. His team a big win last night over Cesarville, Waltonville, Woodlawn, 44-22. Back in a moment.
Dig in with full contact coal miner training at Red Lake College. Learn in our new 20,000 square feet coal mine training center. Use real equipment like continuous miners and power sitters, and check out the new mine rescue and fire safety training tunnel. Associate degree and occupational certificates available.
We're full contact, hands-on coal mining. Real equipment, real live, all the time.
What are you waiting for? Call 618-437-5321 and get started.
Tired of feeling just like another number at the big box store pharmacies? Kimmel Chaplin Pharmacy takes the time to get to know patients on a first-name basis, understand your needs, explain medications, answer any questions you might have, and maintain a great relationship with your third-party insurance, Medicare, or Illinois Public Aid card. Really, it's the prompt professional service and free delivery in the Benton West City area that really set Kimmel Chaplin apart from all the others. Kimmel Chaplin Pharmacy, inside the Benton Medical Center on Bailey Lane.
Break's over. Now back to Saturday morning talking sports on Q106.
Welcome back. Saturday morning talking sports here on WQRL. The El Dorado Eagles pick up a 44-22 victory last night, a Black Diamond Conference victory over Cesarville, Waltonville, Woodlawn. We're happy to welcome back to the program this morning Brandon Hampton. He's the head football coach at El Dorado. Brandon, good morning to you.
Hey, good morning, Jim. Always good to talk to you on a Saturday morning.
And we certainly appreciate you spending some time with us. I know it was a short night for a lot of folks last night, but talk about the victory. Certainly, as first games go, your thoughts on your team's win over what's going to be a good Chesterfield-Waltonville Woodlawn team.
Well, yeah, you're exactly right, Jim. Cesar was much improved. He has done a great job over there getting his kids ready, and we really had our hands full with a quarterback who did a tremendous job making plays, and the Owens boy is as good a playmaker as anybody in Southern Illinois, and he made a ton of plays last night. And the kids from Cesar fought hard. The kids from El Dorado fought hard. And in the end, we were able to pull it out.
And, Brandon, a real oddity in that game, you're never going to see the same thing happen 2 weeks in a row, but I believe the final score was the halftime score. So those two teams put 66 points on the board in the first half, and then the second half is a total shutout. So that's very unusual, the way that two halves played out.
Yeah, we joked after the game as coaches, me and Coach McKee, that we were going to say each other made great halftime adjustments, but I think it was the case where I described it as a heavyweight fight. Early in the contest, both teams were really firing on all cylinders, throwing some big body blows and a couple of knockout shots there. And in the second half, both fighters were just kind of wobbly knees, just trying to gut through it, make enough plays. And fortunately enough for us, we were able to do that. But it was a very unique game last night.
You get the victory, so I'm sure you're pleased with that. But as first games go, was you pleased overall with your team's performance?
We're watching the film this morning right now, and I think number one, I'm so happy for our players. You work so hard in the winter and into the spring, into the summer, and anytime you can get a win, I don't care at what level it is, a win is a big deal, and I'm extremely excited and happy for our players. And the biggest adjustment is the biggest improvement you make from week 1 to week 2. So, there's a lot of little things that we can work on to improve, which to me is the exciting part, the challenging part as a coach. That we're able to put up 44 points against a team that who I think is much improved, and there's a ton of little mistakes. And we're a play or two away from playing the deep ball and maybe just giving up one score. So. There are a lot of encouraging things watching that film. There are a lot of things we need to improve on, and I think our kids will have the right mindset and stay hungry to make those adjustments and corrections.
And I believe I'm correct. We were getting an awful lot of information last night via text message from different places. Wasn't there a pretty serious injury at El Dorado last night? One of your players with a head injury, is that correct?
We had a guy go off for a precautionary measure. We had a long delay in the game as we took him off the field, but all reports on him are great.
Good.
He came out fine, and that led to the long delay, a long time for our kids to get it back going. But I really thought right after that, we punched in a couple of scores and made a nice stop on defense and really finished up well. But last night was a fun game to coach. It was. Passionate, a lot of things going on, a lot of pick plays in the game, and I can't say enough about the way our offensive line particularly played in the first half, and the way our quarterback made some plays, both running and throwing last night.
And one thing about the high school football season, I know we've talked to enough coaches to know you don't get a chance to enjoy a victory very long until you're ready to roll into the next week. And looking ahead to next week, your team will match up against Carmi-White County. They're in action today. I'm betting even money that you're in Carmi-White County this afternoon.
Yeah, I fussed at Kurt yesterday or a couple of days ago when I saw him because Alabama plays at 2:30 and he plays at 2. So instead of being able to enjoy Saturday with my family a little bit, I'm going to have to make that drive up to Carmi-White County just to see for myself that he don't have Chase Saylor playing for him this year, and go up there and try to get a look on those guys. When we play Carmi, it's always a battle. I mean, two programs that have a lot of mutual respect for each other. Kurt is a very good friend of mine. I think the world of his staff and what he's able to do up at Carmi, and it's pretty fun too because our kids really have a rivalry with each other. Growing up here in El Dorado, it was always McLeansboro and Harrisburg were kind of your rivals in all sports. But for whatever reason, this generation of kids at El Dorado and at Carmi really identify with each other there a little bit. Maybe that helps a little bit. Both of us playing Little League football, but that just turned into a little bit of a rivalry and a fun contest. So we're going to enjoy it this morning. The kids are coming in as we speak, and we'll have to quickly turn the page on Carmine-White County and really try to make some improvements from week one to week 2.
And final question for you, Brandon, but just looking at the scores last night, and you see that Chester with a dominating win, Fairfield with a lot of points and a big dominating win. Johnson City pitches a shutout down at Vienna. Carmine-White County we know is always good. El Dorado with the big win. Boy, that diamond is shaping up to be some dandy matchups through the week to week in there.
Yeah, I think you draw a name out of a hat after you get past Fairfield and Chester, and everybody's about the same. It comes down to how healthy are you? Are all your kids on the field? Who makes the most plays? Who comes up with that big play or two of a tight football game? Generally come down to one or two plays. Who wins those plays between so many teams in the Black Diamond? But, looking through those scores this morning, obviously Coach Townsend and Coach Lee got their ball clubs off to great starts, and happy those guys were able to get wins.
Very good. Brandon, we appreciate your time as always. We'll let you get to work on Carmine-White County. Thanks for being with us this morning.
Hey, thank you, Jim. Go Eagles.
That is El Dorado coach Brandon Hampton. His team picks up a big win last night. They defeat Cesar-Valera Waltonville Woodlawn 44-22. And again, that's a really an odd twist in that game, in that the halftime score was 44-22, final score 44-22. So those teams put 66 points on the board in the first half, and neither team scores in the second half. So an unusual twist to that matchup last night at El Dorado, and it was the Eagles winning that game 44-22. Let's get a quick break in, and we're going to come back, try and connect with Johnston City coach Dan Mings. His team picks up a solid win last night, 29-0 over Vienna Goreville. Johnston City 29, Vienna Goreville 0. Back to Saturday morning talking sports in just a moment.
Whether you grew up in the country or in the middle of the big city, everyone can enjoy a flavor favorite at Subway restaurants with the Chicken Salad Sandwich, a delicious combination of juicy chicken, chopped celery, and creamy mayonnaise, all served on your choice of freshly baked bread. We like ours with lettuce and tomatoes, but you can top yours with any veggies you want. Add chips and a drink, and you've got a great meal. So stop by today for our flavor favorite sub, the delicious Chicken Salad Sandwich. Subway, eat fresh. Limited time only at participating locations.
At Weeks in Benton, we can help you with your automotive purchasing needs with 7 brands of new vehicles: Chevy, Chrysler, Dodge, Ram, Jeep, Polaris, and Victory. Stop by and test drive one of these excellent new products or our large inventory of pre-owned. Our friendly sales staff has over 100 years of combined experience, which helps make your buying experience easy and comfortable. That's Weeks in Benton, north of town, but south on the price.
Hi, this is Grady Gaskins, mortgage and commercial lender for People's National Bank in West Frankfort. People's National Bank has always concentrated on supporting the local community by providing the very best products in the market. These products include long-term fixed-rate financing for homes and great commercial rates and terms for your businesses. We strive to make you, our customer, comfortable and confident that you are getting a great service along with a great product that fits your needs. Stop by today and let me show you what banking with a family-owned bank is all about. People's National Bank, proudly supporting Southern Illinois since 1909. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
When it's time to make sure your teeth are in healthy condition, call Dr. Simpson, DDS in Benton to schedule your appointment or your child's appointment. Regular cleaning and checkups are part of maintaining your teeth for a comfortable, healthy smile. And if you're looking to brighten your smile, Dr. Simpson offers whitening too. When your teeth need cleaning, filling, crowns, bridge work, whitening, and more, call Dr. Simpson to make an appointment. 439-4364. That's 439-4364 for Dr. Simpson, DDS in Benton.
Break's over. Now back to Saturday morning talking sports on Q106.
Welcome back. Saturday morning talking sports here on WQRL. Again, glad to have you alongside, and we're here until 10 o'clock this morning. We've got a lot of ground to cover still yet, but stay with us, 106.3. The Johnson City Indians last night hosted the Vienna Goreville Eagles in a Black Diamond Conference matchup, and it was Johnston City turned that game completely away in the fourth quarter as they put 22 points on the board in the fourth and win against Vienna Goreville, pitched the shutout 29-0. We're happy to welcome to the program this morning Dan Mings. He's the head football coach at Johnson City. Dan, good morning to you.
Good Good morning, Jim. How are you this morning?
We're doing good. We had you on the preview show a couple weeks ago, and you said, I hope I'm talking to you on August the 30th. So here we are. That's a good thing, isn't it?
It's a great thing. I always look forward to hearing from you.
And a nice win for your team last night. Talk about that, 7-0 with about, I think, 8 or 9 minutes to go in the game, and then your team kind of puts it on ice late, but just wear them down, or how'd that final quarter go?
Yeah, that was it. We're a full platoon team right now at the beginning of the season, and going at the end of the third quarter into the fourth quarter, that paid its dividend. That did what it was supposed to do, and we were fresh and still flying around, and they had a lot of kids that had to go both ways, and at that point the game was over at that point. Just because we were fresh and they were worn out and starting to cramp up and those types of things, and we were still at the same pace that we were at the beginning of the game. So, that was definite advantage for us last night. Give Ian a little bit of credit. Their defense played pretty well. Their defense played really well all night. And, I don't know, how you look at it, but, the biggest improvement is from week 1 to week 2. And we have a lot of improving to do. After watching the film last night and those types of things, don't get me wrong, I'm happy with the shutout and, scoring 30 points. But, it's one of those things that we're going to need to get better in this conference this year.
As week 1 games go, what are some of the things you think you have to improve on heading into the from here on into the rest of the season?
Well, just the kids that haven't started and played, other than last night being their first varsity game where they got on the field, you just have to be able to keep your thoughts right. You just have to stay focused, and you've got to, make your blocks, and you've got to understand, if the defense is going to run a blitz, how to pick up the blitz pickups, and those different types of things that, first-year players, first-year varsity starters, they got a little problems adjusting with that. So, but we made the adjustment at halftime. We went in and coached the kids, talked to the kids, and, the second half was really nice for us.
251 yards on the ground last night. It looked like you passed the ball around, handed the ball around quite a bit. A lot of kids contributing on the offensive side.
Yeah, I think we had maybe 7 different kids run the ball for us, and we were 4 for 6 throwing the ball, and I felt like that's who we are. We have to be efficient when we throw because we're not going to throw a lot, and then everybody when they get their chance to carry the ball because of the competition and the depth in our backfield right now, they're going to have to step up and do something with that. If you get a chance, you have to do something with it.
We talked about when we did our the conference previews a couple of weeks back. We talked about the diamond in the fact that there's going to be 4 or 5 teams probably in the hunt, and some impressive wins last night. So we just talking to Brandon Hampton earlier, and clearly on any given Friday night, I mean, we say that a lot, but I think in the diamond this year, it looks like that you got to be ready every Friday night. You got a tough one heading into Cesar-Valera, Waltonville, Woodlawn, which is not an easy place to play.
No, there's no doubt. I mean, it's going to be a chore for us, and they have a lot of athletes. That's going to be the thing that we have to offset somehow. The quarterback that they've got. Obviously, he's a great leader. He showed that throughout all the sports that he plays, and Owens is I think he's probably an all-state wide receiver. They're going to be big and strong up front. And, defensively, they're going to fly to the ball like they always have. Coach McKee is, they teach the right things at Cesar. They're doing the right things. And, Coach LeBouille on the defensive side, this is not his first rodeo, so they're going to have a great plan for us, and we're going to have to execute at a much higher level to be in that game.
And certainly an interesting aspect. I'm sure there will be a lot of coaches that will make the trek over, but a big matchup for Carmi-White County as they pick up the game against Bismarck-Henning. That's an interesting Saturday afternoon matchup.
It sure is, and I don't know if it's at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. I'm hoping it's at 2.
It is a 2 o'clock game.
Okay, yeah. I mean, me and my staff, we're going to watch a little bit of our freshman game this morning. Excuse me. Then we're going to head over, and we're going to be there. We're going to watch it. We're going to wear our galoshes and maybe some flippers and a snorkel. But we're going to go, and I'm expecting an interesting experience. I've never seen Bismarck play, and just Carmi on short notice. How did they prepare? And
and those types of things, it's going to be a pretty neat thing to go watch today.
And I'm sure it'll be like a Black Diamond Conference coaches convention over there today. Everybody want to get a look at Carmine-White County on a Saturday afternoon.
I would say it's sort of like cheating a day, isn't it? So
Absolutely.
We'll take it.
Absolutely. Dan, as always, great chatting with you, and congratulations on that win. We'll look forward to talking to you as the season rolls along. Thanks.
I'd like to hear from you every week, Jim.
Thank you. That is Dan Mings. He is the head coach at Johnston City. His team with a solid win last night. And interesting, you look at some of the scores run by you sometimes in these games, but that game was a 7-0 game. Johnston City in the lead with 8 minutes to go, and then the Indians put in a score at the 7:03 mark, at the 5:01 mark, and at the 3:05 mark of the fourth quarter. So they scored 22 unanswered points and win that game 29-0 after leading 7-0 with 8 minutes to go. So that's kind of another little oddity there as far as games go in that kind of like the El Dorado Cesar-Valera game where no points in the second half. That game was a shutout, or basically a shutout, 7-0 through the first 3.5 quarters, and then JC puts it away in the final minutes of the game, win that game by a score of 29-0. Again, the Black Diamond Conference scores last night. JC 29, Vienna Goreville 0, 44-22, El Dorado over Cesar-Valera, Waltonville, Woodlawn, Fairfield 55, CZR 15, and Chester 42, Hamilton County 0 in that matchup last night. So the three new coaches in the Diamond last night all took losses. It was Mike McKee at Cesar-Valera, Waltonville, Woodlawn. Also, it was Brian Trambley down at Vienna Goreville and Brian Blades over at Hamilton County. So the three new coaches last night, all three got losses in their opening game at their respective schools. You're tuned to Saturday Morning Talking Sports. Let's get a quick break in, and we'll come back and continue on.
Special, but what's special about it? At Mr. D's, you get great food at the best price, like the Burger Combo. A hearty, tasty burger, fries, and a drink for only $4.39. That's right, less than $5 for a full meal. Now that's special. Mr. D's has all of your favorites, from chicken strips with gravy to chili dogs to savory barbecue, even a tilapia fish sandwich. Wash it down with your favorite drink like a blueberry Mountain Dew or a milkshake or ice-cold Pepsi. Try an ice cream cone for dessert. Mr. D's Drive-In on North Main, Benton.
You need a law firm who is willing to go and fight for you, whether you're in a divorce, accused of a crime, or if you've been injured in an accident.
I'm Brian Drew. My brother Jason and I's law firm was built on and continues to be run on fighting for our clients. We'll fight for you all the way through trial, be it in front of a judge or jury, whatever it takes. From Cairo to Effingham, from river to river, we're here for you. No case is too big, no case is too small. If it matters to you, then it matters to us.
Because when it really matters, hire Drew and Drew. Call 439-9406 or online at drewlawgroup.com.
Renley College's Adult Volunteer Literacy Program is looking for volunteers to help stop adult illiteracy. Give the gift of reading and be a hero forever. Renley College will provide you with training and materials to help adults develop the basic reading ability needed to excel. You can work one-on-one, tutor a small group, or work with students in an adult education classroom. Experience the joy of helping others and change a life. Call Renley College's Volunteer Partnership toll-free at 800-369-5321, extension 1342.
Break's over. Now back to Saturday Morning Talking Sports on Q106.
Welcome back. Saturday Morning Talking Sports here on WQRL. And again, glad to have you alongside with us. In a Diamond game last night, it was Fairfield defeating CZR by a score of 55-15. The Fairfield Mules roll last night and hang 55 on the board, so a big win last night as they rack up 441 rushing yards last night in that victory over the CZR Bearcats. We're happy to welcome to the program this morning Justin Townsend. He's the head football coach at Fairfield. Good morning, Justin. How are you?
Doing good, guys. Good morning.
We appreciate you being with us this morning, and one of the things that I want to talk with you about, year after year, players graduate, players are lost to graduation, and you got to kind of rebuild. It's always interesting to see how some of those kids are going to react a lot of times to their first varsity experience. You had 8 players on offense, 6 on defense to replace from last year, so you certainly have some big holes to fill, but it looks like they stepped in and did an awfully nice job for you, at least in a game one situation.
They did a great job, especially for week one, and we're breaking film down right now with the kids, and that's the biggest thing. If you're watching it, you don't know that it's a week one film or a week one game, because our kids really did execute pretty well. A lot of times you have those week one things, the bobbled snaps or missed assignments or some plays on special teams that really hurt you, and we didn't really have that last night. So I thought our kids responded really well. We had a lot of guys getting their first varsity action last night, and they stepped up and did an excellent job.
Talk about some of the kids last night that fill some of those roles for you, that you were pleased with their performance.
Well, it's going to start up with our offensive line up front. Our interior three we have back. Our only three starters back: Alec Wood, Jake Pollard, Jimmy Buchanan. That's our center and two guards. They did an excellent job for us. And then branching out to our tackles, Scarborough and Connor Scott, and our tight ends, Young and Kolak. That's where it starts for us up front. That's where we take pride. And then I feel like we got 5 or 6 guys that can break a big play for us at any point in time. Colton Land and Bora, 2 guys that had big runs for us. Scott Esmond, our fullback, had some big runs for us last night. We were able to score in a variety of different ways. We had a scoop and score when we covered a punt. Christopher fumbled. We had a kickoff return. When we had 4 or 5 different guys score touchdowns. So, I think anytime you can have multiple guys be a threat and a defense can't just key on one guy, it's going to make you a more complete football team.
And to come out and kind of set the tone early, it appears like your team really ready to play when it hit the field last night. Talk about that aspect. Sometimes teams are a little slow starting, but it looked like Fairfield ready to roll when they got on the field.
Yeah, I'll give Christopher a little credit. They moved the football on us. They got down in the red zone twice. The Wheeler kid is a heck of a football player. He's going to give a lot of people problems this year. But our defense kind of had that bend but don't break mentality early, and kept them out of the end zone a couple times. It was huge for us. Big momentum boost for us, and we know offensively if you give us enough cracks, we're hopefully going to hit a big play, because we do have pretty good speed and we have some explosiveness this year. So, I thought we came out and played pretty well, and we're pretty sound across the board.
At home next week against Hamilton County, and just looking at the scores in the Diamond from last night, Chester with a lot of points and a big win, El Dorado with a lot of points and a big win, Johnson City pitches a shutout against Vienna Goreville. So clearly that there's going to be 5 or 6 teams, it looks like, in that Diamond on any given Friday night. It's going to be a tough match.
I agree 100%. I think it's wide open this year. I think everybody lost a lot of key guys, but I think everybody's got some young guys that are filling in that are going to be pretty good for them. I mean, we started a few sophomores ourselves last night, played several underclassmen. So I think it's going to be a wide open race this year, and I think each week some unique things are going to happen, and you're going to have to be ready to go.
I've talked to a couple other Diamond coaches this morning, and I want to mention the same thing to you. Certainly, one of the teams that anybody's going to have to beat year after year in the Black Diamond to make a run at the championship is going to be Carmi White County. Kurt Simon's done a great job over there for many years, and they got a Saturday afternoon matchup against a really good opponent in Bismarck Henning. So that's a really interesting first game matchup.
Yeah, I'm going to head over and watch it, as I think a lot of the BDC coaches will, and it's going to be a good test for Carmi. I think Bismarck had quite a few guys coming back, known for being really good defensively, and they like to run the football. So, kind of anxious to get over there and see. And anytime you can step out of conference play and get a game and kind of see where you're at, it's a good thing. And I wish we could find something week 3, but it obviously isn't going to happen. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens. A few teams were able to pick up games, and we can see, and hopefully it'll pay off come playoff time.
Very good.
Conference.
Justin, we appreciate your time as always. Congratulations again on that opening season win over CZR. We'll look forward to chatting with you as the season rolls along.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you. That is Justin Townsend. He is the head football coach at Fairfield. Has done a great job there. He is a local hometown guy that proves you can come back home and do well. He was a former Fairfield Mules player, and then he returns back home, and he's built a really nice program there. Still a young guy, and has done a really good job there at Fairfield. They defeat CZR last night, 55-15 was the final in that game. They'll host Hamilton County next week, and looking at the matchups in the Black Diamond next week, El Dorado at Carmi-White County, which will be a very good matchup. Chester at Vienna-Goreville, Hamilton County at Fairfield. Also, Johnston City will be at Cesar-Valero-Waltonville-Woodlawn. That's probably that and the El Dorado Carmi-White County game will be the two best games in the Diamond next week. And then you've got CZR going against Nashville, and that's a really interesting Week 2 matchup for me. I think it's a good move on the part of CZR. I think you're going to be as good as the competition you play. Not to mention, if you don't schedule somebody in that week and you just take the forfeit, you get nothing out of that. You get the win, but you get no playoff points. And in the Diamond, if you get to 5 wins, if you can get 5 wins out of there, if you can pick up, even if you would lose the game, and you pick up 4 or 5 points out of it, Nashville won last night, if you pick 4 or 5, get 4 or 5 playoff points out of it, it's very much a positive, and could be the difference between making the playoffs and not making the playoffs. So I think anybody you can plug in to that open date because of Alvarado leaving the Black Diamond Conference, I think that you're to an advantage. So kudos to the good folks at CZR for scheduling that. Josh McCurran there, the head football coach, for scheduling that Nashville matchup. I think it's a good matchup for them. And I think one thing we talk about that next year, Highland. I think Highland is a 5A, perhaps even a 6A school. They're playing DuQuoin. They've played Week 1 for several years. And Highland really on the upswing, and DuQuoin with the declining enrollment, you just too big of a gap. And Highland wins that game last night, 56-0. That'll be the last matchup between Highland and DuQuoin. They dropped them from the schedule, and an interesting matchup. Talk about Black Diamond teams moving over. Cesar-Valero-Waltonville-Woodlawn will play DuQuoin in Week 1 action next year. So that's really an interesting matchup too, right out of the gate. And I think that's an interesting geographically. They're right across the field from each other. So I think it's a good matchup, and that'll be a really interesting matchup. And that may be it'll only be a 1-year deal because Edwards County comes in 2016. And DuQuoin will be looking for somebody after that. But I think the scheduling thing. We were talking to Ron Ellis last night on the Fifth Quarter program, and he was talking about some of the scheduling issues that Marion's having right now. They played Champaign Central last night in Champaign. They play Champaign Centennial next Friday night at Champaign, and they're playing on the same field, we understand, that they played on last night. And then the Week 9 action, they're going to Sacred Heart Griffin, the Springfield, to play on their field against Richwood, who's a Chicago school, and so they're going to meet them halfway and play them in Springfield. So he was talking about, and we've talked about it on the program an awful lot, that your success penalizes you in high school football. If you have success, nobody wants to play you because you're trying to get 5. The other team's trying to get 5 wins, and they don't want to put a team on the schedule that they think they maybe don't have a chance to play against. So we went through it when in the 90s with Benton. Those 3 or 4 non-conference games turned into a zoo sometimes. We went to Mascoutah, we went to Heath County, Kentucky, we went to Breeze Mater Day, played Mount Vernon one year, played Marion one year. It was difficult, and because your success penalizes you. That's just the way it works. So that's always one of the arguments on the crossover where you play like in the river to river. You've got other teams from the other conference. Benton has got a complete crossover schedule this year. They've, with Carterville, Sparta, Pinckneyville to start the season, and then AJ to wrap it up. So it's all river to river for Benton, and I think that'd be nice if it could stay that way. Those are some good crossover matchups. So in any event, the scheduling thing is really unique, and I think Carmi-White County did a great thing today by scheduling Bismarck Henning, because they're going to be right in the thick of things, and you're going to get an awful lot of playoff points picking up a team like that. Even if you don't beat them, those points will certainly come in handy down the stretch. And so an interesting matchup there today, and we could devote an entire program to scheduling conflicts and scheduling problems. Heron has gone through it. Massac has gone through it. As we said, Benton back in the day. DuQuoin has had issues. Harrisburg had Marion. I think that game that maybe comes to an end next year, maybe this year. But Harrisburg's got the most brutal start to the schedule of any. Mount Carmel, Mount Carmel, Marion, DuQuoin, I believe it is for the Bulldogs. So just a tough start to the season. You could very easily find yourself 0-3 and have a pretty doggone good team. So that's something I think that the conferences, maybe particularly the River to River, ought to address a little bit more. But I don't know that would not fall on deaf ears. So at any event, let's get a quick break in. You're tuned to Saturday Morning Talking Sports. Back in a moment.
WQRL FM 106.3, Benton, Marion, Carbondale. Your choice for the best hits of the 60s, 70s, and early 80s.
Rock bottom prices and speedy delivery. That's Jesse Drew Rocket Material. Decorative landscaping, driveway rock, topsoil, sand, mulch, or lime. Jesse Drew Rocket Material has what you need to turn your yard into a place where you can relax and be the envy of your neighbors. Jesse Drew Rocket Material also spreads dirt and mulch with their Bobcats so you don't have to. Transform your yard or drive into something you've always imagined. Call Jesse Drew Rocket Material at 927-7857. 927-7857.
Hey, this is Big Dave at All Stars and Stitches, located in Benton, Illinois. We provide screen printing, embroidery, banners, signs, plaques, trophies, and awards.
Hey, this is Coach Aaron. If you need screen printing, embroidery, plaques, or trophies, give the big man, Big Dave, a call at All Stars and Stitches in Benton, Illinois. 435-555-555.
Again, All Stars and Stitches. Our hours are Monday through Friday from 10 to 6 and Saturdays from 10 to 3. By the way, what was that phone number again?
435-555-555.
Tired of feeling just like another number at the big box store pharmacies? Kimmel Chaplin Pharmacy takes the time to get to know patients on a first-name basis, understand your needs, explain medications, answer any questions you might have, and maintain a great relationship with your third-party insurance, Medicare, or Illinois Public Aid card. Really, it's the prompt professional service and free delivery in the Benton West City area that really set Kimmel Chaplin apart from all the others. Kimmel Chaplin Pharmacy, inside the Benton Medical Center on Bailey Lane.
Break's over. Now back to Saturday Morning Talking Sports on Q106.
Welcome back. Saturday Morning Talking Sports here on WQRL. One of the games that we certainly were keeping an eye on last night, and one of the great rivalries in Southern Illinois is Carbondale and Murfreesboro. They just have a great little Jackson County rivalry there, 6 miles apart, and both communities really get into that game. So it's always fun to watch that game, and we'd heard a lot of good things about Murfreesboro throughout the summer. They had a really good summer. I know a lot of 7-on-7 and very impressive performances, and so certainly Murfreesboro is a team that a lot of folks are talking about going in, and they proved last night why, as they knock off Carbondale 35-7 in that rivalry matchup. And we're happy to welcome to the program this morning Gary Carter. He's the head football coach at Murfreesboro. Gary, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Certainly a nice win for your team last night. Before we talk about the actual game itself, talk about the rivalry. It's always a nice crowd when those two teams get together. Kind of set the stage for what the game looked like last night, just from a fan's perspective.
Well, definitely. Both kids are fired up. I mean, the Carbondale's kids were fired up. Our kids are fired up, and our community really looks forward to this game. I think it was, we had a great crowd, and school came out and supported us, and it was just, it's really a nice game.
And interestingly, Carbondale gets on the board first, and then that's it. Your team throws 35 points on them after that, and so talk about that early part of the game where your team falls behind.
Well, we turned the ball over a couple times, and so anytime you're doing that in the first quarter, that's not good. I don't know if it was first game jitters or whatever it was, but we seemed to recover pretty well and came out of the second half and did what we had to do.
Also, Gary, one of the things I wanted to ask you about, we have followed Murfreesboro football for years and years, and through the really good times back in the 80s, and then they really hit the skids in the 90s, and had some just year after year really struggled. And I've talked to different folks down there, interviewed different coaches from down there, and of course I've talked to Lynn Navarro, the athletic director, my good friend Mike Austin, who's from Murfreesboro, and talked to them about different things. The mentality, they always told me that there was a mentality that you can't win, and you just changing that was what a lot of coaches faced year after year. How have you approached that, and how have you changed that?
Well, I mean, it's really hard to say. We're just getting the kids are buying into everything we're doing. We're really working hard in the weight room, and they bought into that, and they bought into, everybody. They think we can win every game, and this mentality, you got to go in, and that's got to be the mentality you come into a game with, is knowing that you can actually you have a chance to win the game. And when you get that, I mean, we played a lot of kids last night, and we're trying to find out the right mix in situations. And I think just mentally, kids need to know that they're in the game, and if you work hard, that hard work pays off, and and most of the time it does. And if you work hard and you play hard, that good things are going to happen for you, and the kids are buying into that.
And just looking at the box score of the game from last night, it certainly appears like you've got a lot of running backs in a stable. There was a lot of kids that handled the ball last night.
Yeah, we did. It was was pretty much we rotated every series or so, and offensive line was the same way, no different. In at least three positions we rotated all night. And defensively, we played a lot of kids as well. So we got a lot of kids, some experience last night, some kids that maybe didn't have varsity experience. Even played a few sophomores, in the heat of the game. And so they're getting battle tested right now. And even though the Carbondale's a big rivalry, it's kind of like a preseason game for us, because it's really no conference implications or anything. So that's what we looked at as an opportunity to get a look at some kids in a live situation, and we're evaluating the film as we speak, and going to try to get better next week.
And speaking of next week, what a great segue into my next question. I know coaches, I deal with enough football coaches week by week that they enjoy the win for just a few minutes, and I'm sure before you got home last night, you were thinking about Anna Jonesboro coming up in week 2. Always a tough game, and on the road down at the pit, always a tough place to play. So certainly a good test for your team, early season test for your team in week 2.
Definitely. Obviously, they're well coached, and their kids play hard, and you know what you're going to get when you go to Anna or when Anna comes here. We're last 2 years we've lost games. We lost 2 years ago. We lost a game late on the last play of the game. Last year we had a 21-point lead at half and blew that lead, and so we have some. Hopefully this year it's a little different.
Very good, Gary. Again, congratulations on that opening season victory over Carbondale last night, and we'll look forward to chatting with you as the season rolls along. Thanks very much for being with us this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
That is Gary Carter. He is a head coach at Murfreesboro. Gary, a former SIU player, played on. I believe it was in that 83 national championship team. I believe played for Ray Dempsey at SIU and had a great career there. And he has really turned things around at Murfreesboro. I heard about them all summer. I talked to coaches as the summer rolled along about the different places where they 7-on-7s. And I know 7-on-7 doesn't translate to 11-on-11, but I think it gives an indication sometimes of the athletes you've got and along those lines. But he has turned that around down there. That's going to be a really good game next weekend. Murphy at AJ. Both of them will be 1-0 heading into that week 2 matchup. And when you look, we talked to the Ohio Division coaches, and everybody wanted to hang the Heron as the favorite, and I think probably rightfully so, despite the fact that they let one slip away last night. But I think Murfreesboro certainly raised some eyebrows with that victory over Carbondale last night, 35-7. That's still. Any way you add it up, that's still, and I know there's going to be people cringe when I say this, that's still a river-to-river school going against a South 7 school. And just the strength in numbers theory there is you're going against a bigger school. You're probably going against a school of 600 going against a school of maybe 1,100. So a nice win for Murfreesboro, and keep an eye on the Red Devils. You heard me say that week 1, not trying to put any pressure on anybody, but keep an eye on Murphy. They'll be a team that's going to be hard to beat in that Ohio division. Just from what you see last night, Murphy will be in the hunt, and then we'll have to look on our schedule and see when Murphy and Heron meet, but that'll be a dandy matchup. That might be way late. That might be like a week 8 thing. We'll have to see for sure. But in any event, Murphy with a solid win, 35-7. Let's get a quick break. We're going to come back, try and connect with Brian Lee. His Chester Yellow Jackets pick up a big win last night. They defeat Hamilton County 42-0. Chester off and rolling again this year with that victory, and they will match up against Vienna Goreville next week. Back to Saturday morning talking sports in just a moment.
Some of us put our life savings under the mattress, while others use a coffee can. For a safe and valuable means of saving your money that you would like to pass on someday to someone special, talk to SCD Ray & Sons Insurance Agency in Benton about single premium whole life insurance. You will immediately increase the amount you can leave to your heirs without any negative tax implications. Sound too good to be true? Call SCD Ray & Sons, your Pekin Insurance Agency, at 439-7557 for all the exciting and valuable details of single premium whole life insurance.
At Weeks in Benton, we can help you with your automotive purchasing needs with 7 brands of new vehicles: Chevy, Chrysler, Dodge, Ram, Jeep, Polaris, and Victory. Stop by and test drive one of these excellent new products or our large inventory of pre-owned. Our friendly sales staff has over 100 years of combined experience, which helps make your buying experience easy and comfortable. That's Weeks in Benton, north of town, but south on the price. Everyone has a lunch special, but what's special about it? At Mr. D's, you get great food at the best price, like the burger combo. A hearty, tasty burger, fries, and a drink for only $4.39. That's right, less than $5 for a full meal. Now that's special. Mr. D's has all of your favorites, from chicken strips with gravy to chili dogs to savory barbecue, even a tilapia fish sandwich. Wash it down with your favorite drink like a blueberry Mountain Dew or a milkshake or ice-cold Pepsi. Try an ice cream cone for dessert. Mr. D's Drive-In on North Main, Benton.
Break's over. Now back to Saturday morning talking sports on Q106.
Welcome back. Saturday morning talking sports here on WQRL. We mentioned about the Black Diamond Conference, some very impressive wins last night, and not only wins, but very impressive wins. And Chester turned in a outstanding effort on both sides of the football, 42 points on the board, and pitched the shutout against Hamilton County. 42-0 is the final in that one. And we're happy to welcome back to the program this morning Brian Lee. He's the head football coach at Chester High School. Brian, good morning to you.
Good morning. I tell you, you've got me conditioned like Pavlov's dog. When I hear the breaks over whistle, I get like nervous. So it's like that preconditioning there. So I sit up a little bit taller and I get a little bit ready. But it's a good morning for us, and we had a nice game last night, and our JV, our sophomore freshman play up there today. So a lot of football this weekend.
And, one thing about we were talking with my engineer this morning. She also did some work late last night here at the studio and then back in early this morning. And I think I got the last text message from you. I think it was around 12:30 this morning. And then when that alarm goes off at 5 a.m., that's not much of a gap in between. But I always use the saying, Brian, I'm going to sleep when I get old, but I'm kind of old now. But at any event, as first games go, to talk about the outing, you got to be pleased with the shutout and 42 points. So a good outing both sides of the football.
Yeah, we were pretty happy. And you talk about when you get old, when you get older, you kind of had this thing. And I can tell you, when I was a young coach, and I used to hear the older coaches say, "We won 42-0, but there's a lot of stuff we need to work on." I used to think, man, if I was me, I'd be real happy to just win 42-0, keep my mouth shut. But I was really happy with our kids' effort. I feel like, year in and year out, there's always that first game. You think, we want to make sure that we keep our tradition of being pretty fast and being pretty physical, and I think that we lived up to that. By the same token, we made some mistakes and things that probably aren't going to get it done later in the season. But overall, I'm really impressed with our effort. I think we held them to 70 yards of offense, and we were able to we were able to move the ball well at times. And I'll tell you what, they're a much improved team. The result may not have shown it, but defensively, especially, there was a lull there for a while. We got on the board early, and we scored 15 points in the first 5 minutes or so, and then there was a good lull for most of the second quarter where they kind of went toe to toe with us, and you can tell that their coaches got them excited, and they're a senior laden team, and I think that they're going to only get better as time goes by, and so
I thought it was a good outing for them too. And I talked to their coach afterwards, and it's told them they need to keep their head up. And there are some things there are some good things going on in Hamilton County right now, and so it felt good to get out with the gate with a win. But we've got some things that we feel like we're still a little bit young.
Brian, from year to year, kids are lost in graduation, and you have to fill in the blanks. And sometimes you're filling in the blanks with kids that have zero varsity experience whatsoever. Talk about some of the younger kids. Did you feel like some of those kids responded under Friday Night Lights?
I think that some of them did, and most of them responded in a positive way. You're exactly right. I mean, like, you sit the bench for your junior year, and then you finally get your shot your senior year, and that first night comes up, and those lights are on, and we got new uniforms, which is always like it adds to that adrenaline with these kids, and it's tough for them. I mean, it's a whole new world, and what we try to really stress all summer is, a lot of folks have talked about us being in a rebuilding year, and there's a lot of truth to that. We've lost a lot of kids. But one of the things that we try to focus to make this transition a little bit easier is that people outside of our program are focused on the names on the back of our jerseys. The Alsemeyer's gone, then Clendenin's gone, and Lawhead's gone. But what I wanted our kids this year to do is focus on the name on the front of their jersey. They're Chester. They're still tradition. We're expected to play at a certain level of football. We want to be classy, but we want to be aggressive, and those kind of things. And I think that we spent this summer trying to ingrain that into them as just as important as knowing, which way to go in any certain play. That once you get out there, that you just worry about the name on the front of the jersey. You make your own destiny, you make your own thing. And I think our kids have bought into that this year. And they've made some rookie mistakes out there. And it's game one. I made some mistakes last night too. But all in all, I feel like the kids that we've asked to step up and do what we need them to do have done a good job.
You talk about keeping the tradition rolling and keeping a program at a high level. Certainly, you got to have the players to do that, but isn't a part of that the mental part of the way you approach the game, the way you approach practice, the way you approach everything you do?
Oh yeah, I think that there's no coach in the world who would ever tell you I take a group of really smart young men over a bunch of really fast smart young men. So don't get me wrong. I mean, the level of athlete you have is important, but you hit it right on the nail. I mean, it's. If you have a program and if you have a system, we have a way of doing everything. We have a way that we take water every day. We have a way that we come down the hill every day. We have a way that we take a knee. We have a formula for everything we do. And that tradition will help us in years when we have 265-pound guards. If for 4 years they know that on this first play they're going to take a 45-degree step, then, we've already won half the battle. We don't change things a whole lot here, and sometimes I think that's to our disadvantage because, we're pretty easy to chart offensively year in, year out because we run the same offense. But our kids, we're very methodical about how we do things. And so, the variables will always be athletes, but we've kind of figured out a way that what works for us, and we will drill that over and over and over again. And so if nothing else, when on a certain play, you should be able to count on your kids being in the right place. And sometimes that's all you need. Sometimes you need more, and you just can't get it done. But we are very, very methodical about how we teach stuff. And for right now, if it's working well for us, but you're exactly right. If you're going to build a program, consistency is definitely the key.
And when you look at the Diamond scores last night, I mean, not only did some teams win, they won very impressively, and that kind of leads me to I mean, there's going to be some really good games in the Black Diamond this year. You talk about Hamilton County being a better product. Cester-Valier got beat 44-22, but I have to believe, knowing the good things I've heard about Mike McKee, that he's going to be have that team ready to go every Friday night. So certainly there's going to be some really entertaining and tough games at Friday night to Friday night.
Oh yeah, I think this will probably be the most exciting the Diamond has been in a long time. There's parity here. Like, there were some big wins last night, but I also think that, like you said, Cesar scored 22 points. The rookie head coach scoring 22 points in his first game against what has been a very tough team in El Dorado is impressive. Johnson City got out too. Dan Mings did a good job there, and I think that you look at Vienna, they're just now getting started under a new coach. You have to have a root there. I think that with the picture even. To speak to even more what you're saying, I think by week 3 and 4 that people are going to be closing the gap, and I think these games are going to be some pretty awesome games this year, and I just think the Black Diamond's putting together kind of a nice product, and they're set up for a good run this year.
And Brian, I've talked to a couple other Black Diamond Conference coaches today. The interesting matchup with Carmi-White County going against Bismarck Henning. I started to ask you if you were going, but you would have had to left right after the game last night, wouldn't you, to get to Carmi-White County by this afternoon?
I would have had to pack a tent and lunch. No, we're. I mean, that's the nice thing about film. is that we'll get that game or we'll get their games, and it's weird, Jim. In this day and age, I'm kind of old school in a way that I like to scout because there's some things you can see live that you can't. But it's also, I think, do I take a whole afternoon away from my family, which I don't get a whole lot of time with them anyway, to watch a game that I'm going to get on film anyway. And so it's just an interesting kind of like with a lot of the technology we have now and the film exchange. Scouting is kind of becoming kind of a passé thing, and it's just interesting to see how that will develop over the next 10 years. I wonder if coaches will go to games to really scout or just for the entertainment value of it.
Yeah, I would imagine. We said they could have a Black Diamond Conference coaches convention over there because they'll probably all be there. You're at Vienna Goreville next week, and now will that be a Saturday afternoon game?
It is, and that's a concern. I mean, it's not. It was just last year. It's on our mind. Last year, what happened over there with Johnson City in Week 1, and Coach Rude, he fell out, and I think they lost an official, and they had several kids. And in talking to Dan Mings about that game, he said he really felt like that affected their season for the next couple of weeks because the kids were so drained. And so we have an eye on the weather there. We've already contacted them. It's supposed to be a 1 o'clock Saturday start, but Vienna's been very accommodating. Said that that if we need to move the game up in the day, I feel like if it's going to be 90 degrees plus, we need to play this game at 11 instead of 11 to 2 instead of 1 to 4. Just because it's part of our jobs as coaches, and Vienna is completely on board, is the safety of our kids. I mean, there's a fine line between really tough and really stupid, and we want to make sure we don't cross that line in the heat with young athletes.
And I know the playoffs are one thing as far as preparing for a Saturday afternoon game, but I know coaches also are creatures of habit about we do this on Monday, this on Tuesday, this on Wednesday, and they really stay strict with a regimen throughout the week. Does that throwing that out of kilter a little bit with the Saturday game? Does that bother you at all?
Yes, it bothers me a great deal. To be honest with you, I mean, there's no cliche coach answer here. It seems like in the past, Saturday's kind of been our kryptonite. Like we've played Saturday games when El Dorado or El Dorado, we had some field issues. We played a Saturday game there. Vienna has been a Saturday game every other year, and we're actually going to play Johnson City this year on a Saturday because they lost their homecoming with El Dorado Trico, and they asked if we would play them on Saturday, and we have a good relationship with Johnson City, and we agreed to do that. But I'm not a big fan. I don't really know what it is, but I mean, I think there's a regimen of I like the kids being at school, and then I know exactly what they have for lunch, and we always keep our kids after school. It's kind of a pain sometimes, but our kids don't go home after school. We stay here, we feed them, we monitor them, and that way I know they're not going out and having a contest of who can drink the most Pepsis and then they show up sick. And this is the kind of thing the high school kids do. So they're under our thumb, and we have these Saturday games. There's a little bit more looseness to that. They're out of the routine, and I tease the kids all the time. Is like, sometimes when it's dark, you can't see how small we are, but when we're out there in the middle of the day, it's obvious that everybody on our team, when we put on 175 on the roster, is really about 155. So I think the light exposes our small. So I tease the kids about that. But we have not traditionally been a great Saturday team, and it does disrupt your cycle because now Friday's practice, what do you do there? Monday's practice is still a little. It's just there are just parts of it that do disrupt it, and we are creatures of habit here at Chester, and so it's always a challenge. But the kids seem to enjoy it. It's nice for the fans. Parents who have to work third shift or second shift, they get to come out to Saturday games, and I think that's good for kids. So we'll grin and bear it. But yeah, I'm kind of a curmudgeon. I kind of like the things the way they are, and when we get out of that routine, I get grumpy.
Very good, Brian. As always, great chatting with you. Congratulations on the victory. We'll look forward to talking to you as the season rolls along. Thanks a lot for being with us today.
All right, thank you, and take care.
That is Brian Lee. He's the head coach at Chester. His team with a 42-0 victory over Hamilton County and a solid win. Chester will be in the hunt this year. You can there's 4 or 5 I think that we can talk about at the Diamond that the conference title is going to have to go through one of those towns. I think clearly El Dorado, Fairfield, Chester, also Carmi White County. Johnson City gets their hat tossed in the ring with a nice win last night. So the Black Diamond, I think, is going to be a lot of fun to watch this year as there's going to be some interesting matchups week to week to week in the Black Diamond Conference. So again, we want to say a thank you to Chester coach Brian Lee for joining us this morning here on Saturday Morning Talking Sports. And again, some of the scores from last night, in case you just joining us, Benton loses to Carterville 40-6. Freeburg all over Massac County 42-14. I wonder if Massac County's back home from Freeburg yet after that game last night. I mean, how far is it from Freeburg to Massac County? It's got to be, seriously, it's got to be 2.5, 3 hours in a bus. I would think it would have to be. Also, Waterloo comes back from a 21-point deficit and defeats Heron 28-27. That was 21-0 Heron at halftime. Also, Mount Carmel defeats Harrisburg 46-12, and Mount Carmel, heard this week that Levi Laws, who's an outstanding basketball player, tore an ACL out for the football season, so Mount Carmel rolls over Harrisburg 46-12. Also, it was AJ hanging on to defeat West Frankfort 37-32. As you heard us talk to Gary Carter earlier, his Murfreesboro Red Devils defeat Carbondale 35-7. And then in other games last night, it was Nashville defeating Carlisle 22-20. Highland defeats DuQuoin 56-0. Pinckneyville, Benton's Week 3 opponent, defeats Redbud 41-6. Sparta, Benton's next week opponent, defeats DuPo 23-0. Also in the Diamond, 42-0 Chester over Hamco. CZR loses to Fairfield 55-15. El Dorado 44, Cesar-Valera, Waltonville, Woodlawn 22. Johnson City 29, Vienna Goreville 0, and in the South 7 it was Belleville Althoff 34, Collinsville 14. O'Fallon shuts out Cahokia 19-0. Murphy 35, Carbondale 7. Champaign Central 26, Marion 14. Mount Vernon loses to Taylorville 40-20, and Centralia opens the season. Coach Ray Calling gets the win with a 34-14 victory over the Salem Wildcats, and that's a wrap on week 1 from high school football. Let's get a quick break in. We're going to shift gears a little bit and talk some Major League Baseball that enters the final month of the season. Right now, on Monday will mark the final month as we roll into September, and we've got some very interesting and entertaining races rolling along in Major League Baseball. We'll be joined by Scott Wqrl in just a moment. Back to Saturday Morning Talking Sports after these messages.
When it's time to make sure your teeth are in healthy condition, call Dr. Simpson, DDS in Benton to schedule your appointment or your child's appointment. Regular cleaning and checkups are part of maintaining your teeth for a comfortable, healthy smile. And if you're looking to brighten your smile, Dr. Simpson offers whitening too. When your teeth need cleaning, filling, crowns, bridge work, whitening, and more, call Dr. Simpson to make an appointment. 439-4364. That's 439-4364 for Dr. Simpson, DDS in Benton.
Don't just dream about a better job. Go get it with scores of programs that take 2 years, 1 year, or even just a few months to complete. Rend Lake College is your gateway to a career you'll love. From nursing to coal mining, from computer programming to cosmetology, and everything in between. Rend Lake College is affordable, convenient, and ready to get you trained for your new job fast. Call us at 618-437-5321 or visit us at rlc.edu.
Tired of feeling just like another number at the big box store pharmacies? Kimmel Champlin Pharmacy takes the time to get to know patients on a first-name basis, understand your needs, explain medications, answer any questions you might have, and maintain a great relationship with your third-party insurance, Medicare, or Illinois Public Aid card. Really, it's the prompt professional service and free delivery in the Benton West City area that really set Kimmel Champlin apart from all the others. Kimmel Champlin Pharmacy, inside the Benton Medical Center on Bailey Lane.
Break's over. Now back to Saturday Morning Talking Sports on Q106.
Welcome back. Saturday Morning Talking Sports here on WQRL. We roll into our final half hour, and again, glad to have you alongside with us this morning. Certainly high school football, college football kicks off this weekend, so there's football is certainly taking center stage in a lot of places, but we're rolling into the final month of the Major League Baseball season. It's something we've been following since back in February when spring training started, and we roll into the final home stretch of the season right now. We got some very interesting races, and probably none any more interesting than what that National League Central Division is, as Milwaukee and St. Louis and Pittsburgh just keeps hanging around. Those three teams are vying for a spot in postseason. And with that said, we'll introduce our next guest, Scott Wqrl. He's a reporter with the Belleville News-Democrat, writes a daily blog called A View from the Cheap Seats. Scott, good morning to you.
Morning.
certainly glad to have you alongside with us this morning. And I guess first things first, we said, well, a big thank you to the San Francisco Giants.
Well, at some point the Cardinals are going to have to start to do their share. They've been awful fortunate; they've got some help over the last week or so. But when we get to this point of the season, when the schedule starts to dwindle down, playing to a tie every day doesn't really help you if you're trying to get past somebody. You need to win some games when they're losing.
And I'm looking at the Cardinals' schedule. If I'm correct, I believe the Cardinals have 7 games in the month of September with Milwaukee. So isn't it basically, in essence, isn't that the season right there?
I think so, but it worries me to look ahead to those games for first place when the Cardinals have, in the last week, lost 3 of 4 games they've played against last-place teams.
Certainly, that's a concern. Talk about last night's game. I was tied up with high school football and just got the final score. And by the time I got in, I was busy trying to put this morning's show together, so I really haven't had a chance to even look about the game. A lot of the Cardinals lost 6-2. Tell us, or pardon me, 7-2. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, it was one of those situations where they had a lead for most of the game. Shelby Miller pitched pretty well and led 2-1 until late. But the Cardinals couldn't score, and they let the Cubs hang around until the end, and then Chicago tied it and kept the pressure on the Cardinal pitching staff. And the last guy you'd think who'd fail, Pat Neshek, came in and got blown up in the 8th inning, gave up 4 runs, and that was the name of the game.
And certainly, I think when you look heading into this final month, the Cardinals appear to be getting a healthy. Yadier Molina's back, so that's got to be a plus. The pitching, there'll be some call-ups. Do you expect to see any new players on a regular basis, daily basis, hit the lineup as the rosters expand in September 1?
Well, I think that Grichuk is the guy that we'll see play the most regularly, and he's obviously already up with the injury to Shane Robinson. Fortunately, he's made a positive impact. He's had hits, I think, in each game he's played so far, at least each game he started, and has given the Cardinals a right-handed bat with some pop, which is something they desperately needed. Now they got Yadi Molina back off the disabled list, so he'll help with that too. After that, I think what we can expect from the call-ups will be guys who will give the major leaguers a little bit of rest here and there, but I don't see anybody who's really going to take over a lineup spot. I think we'll see Pete Kozma back and give Johnny Peralta a little bit of a break. I think the Cardinals are likely to keep A.J. Przinsky when the rosters expand now that they've got Molina back, so they can use Przinsky as a pinch hitter and a backup catcher, and also be able to bring in Tony Cruz if they need him in an emergency kind of basis. I think you might see a couple pitchers who can help out a little bit here and there. Especially helpful will be Michael Wacha, who looks like he's on the verge of coming back into the picture. So I think there'll be role players, but not necessarily anybody who will take over and handle a starting or major role.
And looking at some of the moves the Cardinals have made, they tweaked the lineup a little bit, and they send Joe Kelly and Alan Craig to Boston, and then they also for Lackey, who I think has done. He's delivered about what we were told he would deliver. What about Masterson? That he's kind of the odd man out for me as far as there's no middle ground. He's either really, really, really good or he's not very good at all. What do you see in his role in September, or do you see it diminishing any if Wacha comes back?
Well, the Cardinals have more patience than me, and they're obviously going to give him at least another chance. The word is that they're going to try and let him pitch out of the stretch, which I think will simplify his mechanics and maybe eliminate some of the problems that people think have cropped up because of his knee injury. But I don't think the Cardinals can spare another bad start from him and another long trip through the bullpen because of it. I think there's something wrong with his knee physically that has messed up his mechanics, and he's not a power pitcher. He's a guy who counts on location and good mechanics, and they're just not there. So I think definitely when we see Michael Wacha come back, his spot in the rotation's in jeopardy. But the Lackey's really been a lifesaver for the Cardinals because not only could they not expect Masterson to pitch as terribly as he has, but Adam Wainwright's been pitching much worse than what we'd expect from him. Definitely much worse than what we saw in the first half of the season. So Lackey's really teamed up with Lance Lynn to be the anchors of the rotation while the Cardinals try and find some firm ground with the other guys. And unless they can get 5 guys who could go out there and give them a chance to win every day, there's just no way they're going to make up any ground.
Certainly, the Cardinals, they've got more insight into the players that they're trying to pick up than the average fan does, and they know the ins and outs of that. But when you look at a pickup like Masterson, who's coming off the disabled list, who didn't have a great record, a great ERA, or anything else, that's kind of a head scratcher to me that an organization like the Cardinals would take a chance on a guy like that. What's your thoughts?
Well, I was completely opposed to the idea of trading a legitimate prospect in James Ramsey for a rental pitcher, especially one who was a project who offered uncertainty. I wonder if the Cardinals made that deal when they did because the price for the pitchers they wanted was too high, and they kind of made a deal to send a message to other teams, hey, we're not as desperate as you thought we were. We got a guy now that we're content with, and, if you want to come down on your price, maybe we'll make a deal, but otherwise we're just going to go with what we have. And maybe that's how they ended up with Lackey. Maybe the Red Sox had a higher price, and that was the thing that brought it down a little bit. I'm not sure. Otherwise, in my mind, however, it just doesn't make any sense.
And another question I wanted to ask you: when you look at this Cardinal team, there are years when you say, well, this team was a team of overachievers across the board. This year's team, underachievers, maybe? What's your thoughts?
Well, I think everybody on the offensive side of the ball, with the exception of John Jay, has been an underachiever this year. I mean, first baseman Matt Adams has had a pretty good season, but the thing that's been missing from what he brings to the table is his power. And more than anything, that's what the Cardinals were counting on from him, was a guy in the middle of the order who could be a threat to hit the ball over the fence, because they just don't have many of those guys. But Peter Burgos was a complete bust. We saw the worst season by far we could ever imagine from Alan Craig before he got shipped off. Matt Holliday's had a terrible season. Johnny Peralta has helped in a lot of ways to give the Cardinals more offense at shortstop than Pete Kozma did the year before. But I think people expected him to hit 300 and hit 20 home runs like he did for Detroit in 2013. And if you look at his statistics over the course of the career, that's not the guy he is. You got more of an average year from him than what he got last year. So there's a case to be made that everybody but John Jay was a disappointment at the plate this year all at once, and it certainly explains why their offense is so down. But what I can't figure out for the life of me is how the Cardinals can be so good at getting on base and be in the top 2 or 3 teams in the National League in on-base percentage, but be at the bottom in runs scored. How can a team that has made it so far in the postseason in the last 3 years not know how to push up runners and drive them in?
And when you look at the National League, Washington is 5.5 game lead over Atlanta, Milwaukee 2-game lead over the Cardinals, and L.A. a 4.5 game lead over San Francisco. But when you look at those teams, regardless of if the Cardinals could sneak in, whether it be by overtaking Milwaukee or whether it's sneaking in with a wild card, if Wainwright's healthy, if Lackey's healthy, if Waka comes back, Lance Lynn has very quietly put together a great season. They've got a rotation there that they can make a little noise.
Oh, absolutely, and they've got the experience in the postseason, which, it can't be underestimated. When those bright lights and the TV cameras come on for do-or-die games, it's a whole different atmosphere than it is when you're playing a game in May or June that you'd like to win, but you're not going to die if you don't. So you shorten the bench and really count on your core players more, and the pressure is a big factor. And in those kind of circumstances, you'd think the Cardinals have a pretty good chance. It's getting there that's the problem.
And a nice gesture on the part of the Cardinal fans last night, as they're very happy to see Yadier Molina back in line up again, as he gets a couple of standing ovations during the night. Too bad the game didn't turn out a little better on his return, but it's good to see him back. I think he's a real stabilizing force for that pitching staff.
For the pitching staff, he's a major contributor for the offense. He's the leader in the clubhouse. I think that his value can't be overestimated.
Scott, stay with us. We're going to get our final break in, and then we'll come back and for our final segment. You're tuned to Saturday Morning Talking Sports. Back in just a moment.
Hey, this is Big Dave at All Stars and Stitches, located in Benton, Illinois. We provide screen printing, embroidery, banners, signs, plaques, trophies, and awards.
Hey, this is Coach Aaron. If you need screen printing, embroidery, plaques, or trophies, give the big man, Big Dave, a call at All Stars and Stitches in Benton, Illinois. 435-555-555.
Again, All Stars and Stitches. Our hours are Monday through Friday from 10 to 6, and Saturdays from 10 to 3. By the way, what was that phone number again?
435-555-555.
At Weeks in Benton, we can help you with your automotive purchasing needs with 7 brands of new vehicles: Chevy, Chrysler, Dodge, Ram, Jeep, Polaris, and Victory. Stop by and test drive one of these excellent new products or our large inventory of pre-owned. Our friendly sales staff has over 100 years of combined experience, which helps make your buying experience easy and comfortable. That's Weeks in Benton, north of town, but south on the price.
Break's over. Now back to Saturday Morning Talking Sports on Q106.
Welcome back. Saturday Morning Talking Sports here on WQRL. Again, glad to have you alongside with us. We roll into our final 15 minutes. And again, thank you for being with us this morning as we put a wrap on week number 1, high school football. And we're getting you set for the final month of the Major League Baseball season that certainly has some great, looks like an entertaining races heading down the stretch. Looking at the overall baseball this year, Scott, as we head into the final home stretch, and we've said many times during the summer, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon as you head in. But now we head into the home stretch with the final month. If you could look at either division, any division, either league, either the American or the National League, biggest surprise to you this year in Major League Baseball?
Oh, the biggest surprise to me by far is how the Detroit Tigers have faded. I mean, they seem like a team in a relatively weak division that was just absolutely stacked and should have walked away with it. And they made a trade to get the big prize at the trade deadline and David Price. And since then, they've not done nothing but sink in the standings. And if the playoffs would start today, they wouldn't even get a wild card spot.
And Kansas City, 15 games over 500 heading into the final month. That's interesting there.
Yeah, they walked right through the open door, and I don't know if a lot of people in this neck of the woods realize that the last time the Royals had been in the postseason was back of that mess in 1985. So them having this opportunity is pretty monumental for their franchise and their fans.
The Cardinals seem like a team that has been. The high water mark this year, I believe, was 12 games over 500. They set 9 over 500 right now, and I think that some of the things one of the things that stands out to me is it seems like there are games when they just seem they have zero energy. It's you watch some of these games like the final game of this road trip where it's like they just called the score in and they put up little fight at all, it seems, and not a sense of urgency, I don't think, on this team that I'd like to see. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think I agree, and something that John Mozeliak has said in the past is that he thinks it's a good idea to have a little bit of turnover now and again, because especially when a team's a winner, because they become complacent and satisfied with what they've done in the past. And, I think we talked way back in spring training that I was concerned the Cardinals seemed like they were going through the motions in those games, and I was concerned about whether they would be able to turn the switch on when they got to the games that counted. And, here we are at the end of August, and I still don't think they found the switch. So I think we're going to have to see some turnover at some point to inject some new life into this club and maybe a little bit of hunger. But I also think part of the problem is the fact that the offense has been so unexpectedly weak all year that they have a sense that if they get down in games, even if it's only down 2-1 or 3-1 in the middle of games, that they can't catch up and they give up. And that's just not a very becoming sight from the St. Louis Cardinals.
We talked a lot. You and I talked on Saturday morning a lot prior to Oscar Taveras being brought up, and talked about he's a 5-tool player and he's the next coming of the next great player in St. Louis. Have you been disappointed in him this year, or is this just a rookie that's feeling his way along and he'll become a great player?
I think the disappointment is not in his talent; it's in his level of polish. I'm continuously shocked at how raw players are when they graduate from the minor leagues to the big leagues. And, he's got a lot of talent as a hitter, but he doesn't seem to have a lot of instinctual knowledge of the game. He's a terrible base runner. He's, we were being told that he was a guy who could play center field, and he's not actually even a very good corner outfielder. Now, I'm not saying he can't get better and that he won't get better, but I just think that the Cardinals minor league system has let them down, that a player could be allowed to make it to the major leagues without figuring out how to do these things before he got here instead of trying to learn on the job. And we've seen that with other players in the past, too. Matt Adams was a guy, when he emerged at the major league level, he was strictly a one-dimensional player. He was a power hitter who was all or nothing, and his defense was absolutely atrocious. And since he's been in the major leagues, he's improved dramatically with the glove at first base, I assume from working with Jose Aquindo. In fact, it's to the point that I've heard some people say that he ought to be considered for the Gold Glove this year. But he wasn't that guy when he came up from the minor leagues. And we had guys like Brett Wallace in the system who people actually were saying could be the next Babe Ruth. And he couldn't cut at the major league level. He was so oversold and so unprepared that he's bounced around 3 or 4 different franchises and spent most of this year, 4 years after he got traded from the Cardinals back in the minor leagues.
Also, you made mention about John Mozeliak talking about that sometimes turnover or change is good and it does shake things up. Regardless of what the Cardinals do this year in postseason, do you see some big time changes on the horizon with guys like Holiday and also guys like Peralta and some of these players?
I don't see big time changes, and I definitely don't think those guys are going anywhere. Holiday's got his contract with a no trade clause, and Peralta has a relatively cost prohibitive contract that would make it unlikely he'd be shipped out. And I don't necessarily think those guys are the problems. I think that Matt Holliday is a quiet guy who doesn't want a lot of headlines, but in the clubhouse, I think he's extremely well respected, and I think he's extraordinarily well prepared. I think the shakeup that we saw with Alan Craig and Joe Kelly, 2 of the most popular younger players on the team being traded, was meant as a message in that regard. And I think that I think the Cardinals are in a good position to try and add to the team through free agency and move a couple pieces around that way. So I think that's where we'll see the addition this offseason. But there needs to be a culture on this team that what happened in the past wasn't good enough and that nothing is promised and that people have to fight for their positions. Like John Jay did this year. His job was given away in spring training, and all he did was win his job back 3 times this year. But other guys, like Colton Wong at second base, he gets picked off on bases in games when the Cardinals are down by 1 run and it's late because of mental lapses, and I just think he needs somebody to push him and make him better if he's going to become the player the Cardinals think he's going to be. And I think the same thing has to happen with Oscar Taveras. I think he needs to know that the job isn't his for the next 10 years. He has to win it every year in spring training.
And they clearly have had some disappointments this year. I think Mark Ellis has been a disappointment. He didn't live up to Peter Bourjos has been a disappointment as far as living up to what was expected and what I think what they figured on with those 2 players. They didn't get the return on their money there.
No, not at all.
Certainly. So, listen, we appreciate your time as always. And will you be at Busch Stadium over the weekend?
I'll be there tomorrow. I hope that they're not trying to salvage one win out of a 4-game set, but the way they played last night, I'm not very optimistic.
Now, doubleheader today, is that correct?
Yes.
Well, and give us the times on it. Is it 1-7? Is that right? Split doubleheader?
Yeah, it's a split doubleheader, 1 o'clock and 7 o'clock, to make it as difficult for the fans as possible.
I think one of those games was a make-up from a May game, and then they'll wrap up the series tomorrow. So, in any event, it should be interesting to watch how this plays out over the next month, and we'll be chatting with you on a weekly basis. Scott, appreciate your time as always.
Great. Thanks for having me.
That is Scott Wqrl. He's a reporter with the Belleville News-Democrat. And, again, you can get to his work by going to bnd.com, bnd.com, Belleville News-Democrat online, and go to blogs. You'll find his work there. And he writes a daily blog called A View from the Cheap Seats, Major League Baseball, primarily St. Louis Cardinal baseball, but talks about Major League Baseball too. So always good stuff from Scott Wqrl, and we appreciate him being with us here on Saturday Morning Talking Sports. Let's get a break in. We'll come back and wrap things up. You're tuned to Saturday Morning Talking Sports. Back in a moment.
Speedy delivery. That's Jesse Drew Rocket Material. Decorative landscaping, driveway rock, topsoil, sand, mulch, or lime. Jesse Drew Rocket Material has what you need to turn your yard into a place where you can relax and be the envy of your neighbors. Jesse Drew Rocket Material also spreads dirt and mulch with their Bobcats so you don't have to. Transform your yard or drive into something you've always imagined. Call Jesse Drew Rocket Material at 927-7857. 927-7857.
Are you interested in a career in the culinary arts but can never afford the high cost of cooking school? Rend Lake College has a low-cost recipe for success. For as little as $5,500 per year, you can get a quality culinary arts education in your own backyard. That even includes books, tuition, class fees, and supplies. Learn to master domestic fare, pastry, and foreign cuisine in Ina, Illinois. Save thousands on a culinary arts education at Rend Lake College. For more information, log on to rlc.edu/culinary arts.
Break's over. Now back to Saturday Morning Talking Sports on Q106.
Welcome back. Saturday Morning Talking Sports here on WQRL. And again, thanks for being with us this morning. Let's look quickly at what we got lined up for next week in high school football in Week 2 action. In the Ohio division, it will be Benton hosting Sparta. The Sparta Bulldogs come to town. Also, it will be Massac County hosting Carterville. Carterville travels to Massac County next week. Heron at Carbondale in Week 2 action. Also, Harrisburg at DuQuoin. West Frankfort at Pinckneyville. And that game we talked about with Murfreesboro coach Gary Carter just earlier. Murfreesboro will be on the road at Anna Jonesboro next week to take on the A.J. Wildcats down at the Pit. That's always a tough place to play. Also, it will be in other games. It will be CZR, an interesting matchup. Christopher Ziegler-Royalton will go to Nashville for that game against the Mississippi side of the river to river. Black Diamond School heads up there. Of course, that comes about from the forfeit where Alvarado left the conference and went to the co-op with DuQuoin, and leaving the Black Diamond with each team with a empty week. And CZR filled that with a matchup in Week 2 against Nashville. Pinckneyville, as we said, at West Frankfort. And then in the Black Diamond next week, it's El Dorado at Carmi White County. Chester at Vienna Goreville. That's a Saturday afternoon game. Hamilton County at Fairfield next week. And then also it's Johnson City at Cesterville, Waltonville, Woodlawn. As we mentioned, CZR at Nashville. In the in the South 7, Charleston at Mount Vernon. Marion at Champaign Centennial. Alton at Cahokia. Wood River at Centralia. That's a look at the teams in the South 7 Conference as we roll into week number 2 action. So as you heard coaches say this morning, I think everybody feels like, hey, you can stub your toe in week 1 and still recover and move on from there. Clearly, when things go haywire the first 2 weeks, the chances of putting together even a winning season, and let alone a playoff. Not saying it can happen. We're just saying that the chances of that happen are greatly diminished. If you start the season at 0-2, it's been proven that way. I remember when Danny Zerwinski was doing the show with me, he did an exhausting study on teams that started 0-2, and it's uncanny how quickly the season unravels, and the number of the chances of making the playoffs after an 0-2 start poor at best. So that's something to keep an eye on. So that'll and the coaches are very aware of that. So there clearly will be a a lot of sense of urgency in a lot of football places this week. I'm sure Benton is one of those when they're going to be trying to change the complexion of what they saw in week 1. And I think Benton's got some positives to build off of from that game last night. So certainly we'll see how things shape out in week number 2. Let me remind you that tune in this week. We'll kind of looking at our week. Don't forget the afternoon delight each evening here on WQRL with Ashley. That's from 3 to 6 every day. Don't forget Wednesday night we'll be bringing you Sound Off here on WQRL, and also Benton Ranger football action next Friday night from Tabor Field. 6:30 is our pregame show. 7 o'clock is the kickoff as Sparta, the Bulldogs, come to town with first-year coach Rob Kirk. They are 1-0. Benton is 0-1. And then don't forget we'll have the 5th quarter program coming your way next week at the Benton West City Applebee's. We were on the road last night at Carterville, but next week we'll be at Applebee's for our 5th quarter program. We always look forward to that, and it's always a lot of fun. So we'd encourage you to come out and visit us next Friday night from the Benton West City Applebee's and take part of the program and take part in the program out there. It's always a great time. They've got those half-price appetizers at that time of the night, and we had great crowds all through the season last year, and we believe we'll pack them out again this year at the Benton West City Applebee's. That's the 5th quarter immediately following Benton High School football here on WQRL. With that, we're going to wrap things up here this morning. For my engineer, Ashley Bites, who, as always, turned in her usual fine job, I'm Jim Muir, and I'm speaking for all the good folks at Dana Communication when we tell you we hope you enjoyed the program this morning as much as we enjoy bringing it to you. Be safe out there this weekend on the Labor Day weekend, and be careful. And if you're going to drink, do not drive this weekend. So keep that in mind. With that said, so long. Have a great Labor Day weekend. God bless you.